Mark, after you wrapped the first film, did
Uh-huh.
you immediately have ideas what you wanted to do with part two, or even during the making of the first one?
I think before the beginning of the first movie, I was really interested in telling the Gwen Stacy saga, which is, I think, one of the more interesting storylines in all of comics, certainly in Spider-Man, and it's something that hadn't been done before. And how that progressed was something that was that was interesting to me. I wasn't quite sure why, and it wasn't until this movie that we really got to dig in to understand why that was. But that had existed even before the first movie.
And Andrew, for you, moving into the second one, were there sides of Peter and Spider-Man that you were anxious to see?
We wanted to make sure that Peter Parker was owning the symbol that he'd created. He was owning being Spider-Man and really kind of not indulging in it, but enjoying it. I think it's a great example of what we all want to do with our own lives and with our own gifts and our own talents and powers, is to really be like giving them, you know. We like Pharrell comes to my head for some reason, and he obviously worked on the beautiful soundtrack with Hans Zimmer, and you see a man that seems to be always creating and always giving what he has to give, and there's something inspiring and aspirational in that for everybody else to witness someone who's just like, oh man, they are living their art. They are giving their gifts on a daily basis, and they're not shying away. And they're succeeding. They're stumbling. They just keep giving and keep creating. And I think that was the feeling we wanted to have in Spider-Man in this movie.
Did the overall reception for the first one change your approach to the second one at all? I mean, how important was the feedback?
Certainly, it enters into your consciousness in some way, whether you want it to or not. And there was, particularly with like the suit, for example. The first movie, I wanted to create a suit that a kid could make. You know what I mean? That's where we got those little lenses from sunglasses. And this time around, I rethought that. We all rethought that. He had certain, utilitarian components of the suit that needed to be adjusted. But I just wanted to embrace the iconography, and I think that came probably from hearing fans and their wants and desires and trying to address that, because you do want to engage in the iconography. You do want to engage in the things that are meaningful to people, that are meaningful to the audience, and that on a superficial level is the costume, but there's also themes, ideas, humor, playfulness that we really wanted to engage in this time around.
And moving forward, is there anything that you really want to see Spider-Man engage in? We keep hearing like rumors about him teaming up with other superheroes. Theoretically, is that something that you'd like to see happen in a future film?
Of course, I think that would be incredibly fun to see him interact with someone else or others. But also there's something compelling about him being a lone wolf. And there's something intrinsic and innate about Peter, that he was born an outsider and has lived as an outsider and is perpetually destined to be an outsider. There's something really compelling about that, and it makes us all, reflects all of our lives in the sense that we always at some point feel alone. We've all felt like we're a one-man army at some point in our lives, whether it's by the water cooler at work defending yourself, or on a bit like larger scale. So I don't know the answer, but I obviously love the idea of sharing the weight.
Right, yeah, he needs a little help sometimes.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Wait, something's happening here.
Close your eyes.
Start. Okay.
Reach in. Keep them closed. Hold it up. Okay, eat it. What color?
Red.
Yes!
That's it. I'm done.
Karen,
Nice meeting
bye.
you.
See ya.
Thank you. Gonna look good
I'm
on
very
camera.
impressed with you. It rarely happens.
Yeah,
You rarely get it right.
I'm good.
Maybe you always get it right.
I do. I
You're
know my
that
gummy
kinda
bears. Thus far, how big of an impact has playing Gwen had on your life?
I don't know. I don't know how to distinguish it from just what my life feels like. But I'm sure it's been a pretty large impact. It's a pretty, it's been over a year of shooting it total. And I've gotten to travel to places for work that I never thought I would go, like the Great Wall of China. So it's pretty big.
After the first film, did you look into the feedback? Are you the type of person who looks at the message boards or reads the reviews or anything like that?
I catch wind, I think, of reviews, but I try not to look at that stuff too much. That's just never a good idea.
You don't Google yourself.
So I have before.
Yeah.
I'm trying to avoid self-preoccupation. I think
Yeah.
it's a pretty big waste of time.
That's a good idea.
Not very interesting.
No.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy the action elements of the film, the wire work and the green screen stuff?
Yes, actually, because Gwen is swinging a lot. So that, and I don't mind that at all. I always wanted to be Kathy Rigby and Peter Pan.
Really?
So it feels like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Gwen has such an interesting line in the film towards the beginning, which is "time is luck," which really stood out for me. I wonder if you believe that personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your life is short no matter how long you live. So I think every day really does count and is something to be valued.
Is there a particular scene in this film that really affected you in a certain way, or that stands out for you in hindsight?
Yeah, there's one scene, but I don't want to spoil anything. That was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the primary thing you're going to take away from playing Gwen Stacy these past few years?
I think now will be the interesting part because I can see things so much more clearly in hindsight. So that would be a good question probably a year from now, what that experience was like, because this has been 3.5 years of my life that have been pretty formative.
And the experience of spending all that time with Andrew, how did your relationship change from the first film onto this one?
I mean, I think just getting to know everybody better, including Mark and the producers, and spending that much time together, your relationship evolves, your friendships evolve, and I just feel more like a family with all of those people now, in lots of ways. We're like a band on the road. We've got Band-Aids. I got my own Penny Lane.
Cool.
She doesn't use birth control and she eats all this Jake.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that and gummy bears, that's what I'm going to take away from this interview.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'm curious if you guys were fans of comic books growing up, and if it's just a thrill to be playing these larger than life characters in this film.
I wasn't really a fan of the comic books per se, but I knew I wanted to be an actor, I think, when I was just a little kid, like putting on my Spider-Man pajamas and playing pretend, like I was a superhero fan, not necessarily specifically a comic book fan. And now to be able to do it for a living, it's a total dream come true and a blast.
Same for you.
I was talking about this earlier. Like, people know me for 20-something years of doing this business, but a 9-year-old kid is going to see me for the first time, as Electro and Max. And it's great, man, to be a part of this franchise, to see how the tentacles of this franchise touches those kids. Man, we went to Beijing, Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, and to see kids dressed as Spider-Man. I have my daughter who's 5 years old, so this is a breath of fresh air, man, to just be able to do something that's fun.
Can you each talk about the makeup process that you went through, because it looked pretty intense? Was it a grueling process for you guys?
I did 3.5 hours of makeup to become the Goblin, and then it's another hour to get in the suit. But, to say it's grueling, no, because, then you're the Green Goblin, Oh, it takes 4.5 hours to become the Green Goblin, that's the other side of it. So, I wouldn't say it was ever, a struggle to become the Green Goblin.
And for you too, I mean, did you know what the final product was going to look like?
I saw some little clips here and there, but they actually dipped me in candle wax, I was in blue from head to toe. But to see what the CGI guys did was just absolutely amazing, because they said they're going to make it look like it was a thunderstorm inside.
Do you guys approach this the same way you would approach, say, an indie or a drama, or do you change it up a little bit in terms of your mindset as an actor?
I don't know. I mean, my acting mentor used to always say, style is knowing what play you're in, right? So you got to understand what kind of movie you're making. I mean, ultimately the work is very similar, but then you need to understand, the universe and the world and the tone of what you're creating, and you do have to, honor that, or you wouldn't be doing your job.
And it must be fun to kind of go a little over the top and chew the scenery up a little bit, right?
Yes.
Like that.
Yes, a lot of that. But that's what you do in the mirror when you're a kid. You watch a villain or a superhero, and then you mimic, you know, Spider-Man, or you do your mean face or whatever that is, and now you get a chance to do it in front of the biggest audience in the world, you know, in Spider-Man, and you go with it, and it feels good.
Do you feel that responsibility because of how huge the franchise is, how many fans it has? I mean, you knowing that billions of people are going to see this movie?
Spider-Man is Coca-Cola. Like, you see Coca-Cola, I got to drink a Coke. You know, like I asked my daughter years ago, my oldest daughter, she's 20 now, I said, "You going to see Spider-Man?" "Dad, we have to." Like, "Why? What do you mean?" She says, "No, you just, when Spider-Man comes, you have to see it." So that's a beautiful blessing to have a franchise like that.